Ladies and gentlemen, we are here for the pregame for the Buffalo Bills and New England Patriots today at Foxborough, Mass. We'll be breaking down all the key matchups, giving out pregame superlatives, and of course, sharing game predictions. But first,
Welcome to the Air Raid Hour, a Cover One Network podcast. Here are your hosts, Judge Mathis and Tilt Money.
good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome into the Buffalo Bills versus New England Patriots pregame show. We're doing things a little bit differently today. We're recording, or actually going live this morning at 8 a.m. To give folks a chance to wake up with us, grab their coffees, and sort of ease into their mornings, and also give those folks a chance to watch the show on replay up until 1 p.m. when the game does kick off in Gillette Stadium. I will be riding solo with you today. It's me, Tilt, and I'll be taking you through all the typical pregame, fun that we usually do here on the Air Raid Hour pregame show. I will be riding solo today, so bear with me a little bit this morning. And Jessica says, Judge did not want to get up at 5 a.m. Good morning, Till. No, Judge is in the great state of California this weekend with his family. He's got some family stuff going on, so I'm not going to ever hold that against him. He's got his commitments, and he's covered for me more than enough times that I can count. So I hope he's having fun. And ultimately, what will really make this day fun is if at the end of it, the Bills come away with a big win in New England. But for this morning, we are live, of course. The last time I did the solo show, it was a pre-recorded show, so it was a little bit different. So today will be nice to be live with you all and to kind of hear you all in the comments section talking about what you feel about this game. So we'll go ahead and kind of pull up our ticker here on the bottom to show you kind of what we've got in store for you today. We're going to go through the injuries and weather report first, as we always do. We're going to talk about the Bills' offensive matchups against the Pats' defense. Flip that. We'll talk about the Bills' defense and their matchups against the Pats' offense. We'll go through our pregame superlatives and then finally make our game predictions. Injuries and weather. Well, let's start with the weather because the weather is really not, I don't think, going to be a huge factor in today's game. The forecast in Foxborough around kickoff is going to be low 50s. It looks like it'll be either partly cloudy or mostly cloudy for that, but low 50s temperature-wise looks to be fine. There's no rain in the forecast. Did call for some wind gusts up to 10 to 15 miles per hour, so that may have a little bit of a factor on the kicking game, but I wouldn't expect that type of wind to necessarily have too much of a factor on the passing game. And we got a couple folks coming in with some comments. Tim A, good morning, go Bills. Tim Anderson, of course, former Bill. And Brendan says, need that workman type game from the Bills today. Just get it done, no mistakes. And I think that's really a good segue into kind of talking about the injuries in this game. And why don't we start not with the Bills, but with the Pats injury report? And so I'm going to bear with me here. I'm going to do a little bit of a sharing situation here. And hopefully this will show up okay on the screen. So let's see how this looks. And if you all can't see this and it's too small, that's fine. Just let me know and I'll take it down. Now, the reason it is zoomed in quite a bit here is because the Pats have a laundry list of injuries going into this game. You'll see most of their players listed as questionable there, limited practices throughout the week. Those people I expect all to play, but really the three big ones, and really I'll say four if we want to talk about, do we have time for the whole Pats? We're really going to focus on the guys that are not going to play for the Pats today, right? And obviously the huge the huge news this past week, really, for the Pats is that Christian Gonzalez, with his labrum surgery, he's going to be out. It hasn't necessarily been determined 100% whether he's going to miss the whole season or not. There have been some conflicting reports, but he is obviously going to miss several weeks at the minimum. And so Christian Gonzalez being out is obviously a huge boost for the Bills' passing game. He's obviously not on this injury report because he is on IR at the moment, I believe, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but that's why he's not on the injury report. But the two main injuries then that we got to talk about with the Pats are Josh Uche being out, who's really been the best pass rusher for the Pats outside of Matt Judon. 2 sacks for Uche this year. He's the only other player besides Matt Judon that has more than 1 sack on this team. And so him being out is a huge boost for the Bills. And of course, Keon White, who was a guy that we did a lot of work on in the pre-draft process and thought he was a really good fit for the Pats, he's also out. So the Pats are really banged up, especially on the exterior of their defensive line. So the Pats' strength up that middle with Barmore obviously is going to be even bigger deal today. But you have to love this if you're the Bills, looking at this injury report and seeing that obviously Josh Uche being out, one less pass rusher to worry about, and Keon White again also being out with that concussion. So at the end of the day, like the Pats, the Pats injury report is long and it is favorable for the Bills, right? And it says, boy, Lettuce says, I'm waiting on my Sunday tea. Yeah. Yeah. So the Patriots are always pretty interesting with their injury report in general. You see this long list of guys that are all listed questionable. For the most part, we know that the Pats really haven't made a ton of roster moves this week. So if they were really expecting a bulk of those guys to not play, then we would have seen some corresponding roster moves, and we haven't seen those. So Keon White really and Josh Uche are the big ones on the side of the Pats. Now let's get to the Bills injury report here, and I'll bring this up as well. I think this one will show up a little bit better on the screen. And let me just fix that up. There we go. Not sure why this is here, so let me try to get rid of that. There we go. All right. Working through it, and thank you for being patient with me this morning. So take a look at the Bills injury report, right? And didn't seem like there was too much concern with Josh Allen's shoulder injury. There were some weird comments kind of made at the end of that Giants game, but obviously he's good to go. And I'll get to this super chat here from your boy Lettuce. Bills 53, Pats 10. We give Bill his biggest loss at home. Now that would be quite nice today. If the Bills could hang 53 on the Pats, it would be a little bit of a revenge for that time that they hung 50 on us on that Sunday night game. If you remember years ago when they were undefeated and they just came in and absolutely torched us. I believe that was in the Dick Duran era, if I'm not mistaken. So would be nice to get some revenge there. Randy with a very interesting question. Are we going to see Malik Cunningham today? Now that is very interesting. He obviously is a guy that people project that he could maybe play multiple positions, but obviously Mac Jones has kind of been on this weird long leash, but short leash in different situations, in different games. We'll get to that when we talk about the Pats offense today. Back to the Bills injury report. Spencer Brown getting in those full practices. He's got no injury designation. Khair limited all week, but no injury designation, so he's good to go. Same with AJ Epinesa in the quad. Dane Jackson is back. Was limited to start the week, but has 2 full practices on Thursday and Friday. He is good to go. Dalton Kincaid comes back from his concussion, was full all week. He is no longer on the injury report. Same for Dawson Knox, although Dawson Knox did play last week. Maybe his wrist, it looked like, was still bothering him a bit, so I'm expecting him to be obviously a lot closer to 100%. Not sure that he is 100%, but obviously getting the 3 full practices in is a good sign that he's on the mend. And we're going to talk about Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox a bit more when we get into the Bills offense against the Pats defense. Cam Lewis with the shoulder, he did come in full on Friday, questionable. I would expect him to be out there. Quentin Morris out, that ankle injury. This may be less of an issue now with the fact that Kincaid and Knox are both on the mend and both will be playing. So maybe not a huge issue that Quentin Morris is out for this game. But the next one, right? Ed Oliver with that toe injury, DNPs all week. He's out for this game. The Bills are really kind of rotating through, I would say, from an injury standpoint onto that interior, right? We know Daquan's out. Ed Oliver now banged up. Bills have been kind of nicked up really for the last several weeks across the defensive line with Rousseau a couple games ago not being there. He's back now. Now Ed Oliver's back. Now Ed Oliver is out. That interior is really going to be tested today. It's going to be the likes of Jordan Phillips, Tim Settle, manning that interior, Poona Ford. And obviously the Bills made that roster move by calling Kendall Vickers up to the active roster this past day. And if you take a look at really, if you take a look really about what the Bills might do today, you've got Poona Ford, you've got Jordan Phillips, you got Tim Settle. Like I would imagine, I think Kendall Vickers is going to be active for this game, right? He's going to be your fourth defensive tackle because no Daquan Jones, no Ed Oliver. It's going to be Jordan Phillips, Tim Settle, Poona Ford, and Kendall Vickers. So I do think Kendall Vickers is going to be active for this game. So a big test really for that Bills interior defensive line. And Randy comes in and says, New England doesn't have much to threaten us vertically, and I agree. And Jessica asked, Tilt, do you think Groot rotates inside in passing situations? And I think that makes a lot of sense, right? And I think that the Bills right now at edge, right, with Shaq and Epinesa and Vaughn back and Groot back, really like on the edge is where really it's clear from a health perspective, that's where the Bills are their healthiest. Leonard Floyd as well, obviously. So I agree, Jessica. I mean, if that's what you're kind of getting at, I think we'll see that. And we've seen that happen in the past couple games where Groot has rotated inside. Yep, Floyd too. Can't forget about him, my favorite offseason signing. So that I think will help. I do wonder about the Pats game plan, and we'll get to that a bit when we talk about the Bills defense against the Pats offense. But yeah, injuries are starting to, I don't want to say mount up for the Bills because it's kind of been like guys come back, other guys are out. So like obviously we're getting we're getting Kincaid back this week, and Rousseau is looking like he's getting healthier each week. But now Ed Oliver's out, and we don't even know at this point with those 3 DNPs in a row this week if Ed Oliver might miss time beyond just week 7, right? The Bills have a short week coming up ahead with the Bucks on Thursday. So there's a chance that the Bills may be without Ed Oliver for Thursday's game as well. And so we'll see about that. So let's get back to our next topic here, and that's the Bills offense and how they match up against the Pats defense. So let's take a quick look at sort of the New England defense and sort of how they've stacked up so far this year. New England's defense is 14th overall in DVOA. They're 23rd against the pass rushing. They're 8th, and that's in DVOA. Judon and Uche both out. Obviously, their 2 best pass rushers, 6 combined sacks on the year. No other player on the roster has more than 1 sack this year. As a team, they have the 6th fewest sacks in the NFL so far this year, and they have the 29th graded pass rush rating per PFF this year. So starting from sort of the inside out on the Pats defensive front, you would like to think that the Bills offensively, right, will match up pretty well. Their offensive line, the Bills' offensive line should hold up decently well against this undermanned Pats defensive front. The rushing D is really where the Pats have been okay this year. On their surface, their yards per game allowed is not that great, but it's also a factor of teams have been able to run the ball in high volume against them. They have allowed the Patriots this year the fifth most rushing attempts against them of any team this year. So while their yards per game looks bad and they've allowed the fifth most rushing attempts of any team this year, they're actually allowing the third best uh, yards per carry from a rush D standpoint in the league at only 3.4. So it's a very interesting dynamic, right? Where you have the Pats, like on the surface, you see that they're rushing their raw statistics, their yards per game allowed, not maybe that great, but it's also a factor of volume of teams being able running the ball a lot against them. But the Pats really, doing a decent job in stopping opposing teams rush D, and that shows up through the DVOA. So it'll be interesting to see the Bills this week, right? Obviously, Damian Harris going to IR. The Bills calling up Ty Johnson from the practice squad, who I think gives you a little bit of juice. Like maybe like I don't want to call him a watered down Naheem Hines, but he is a guy that can catch passes out of the backfield. He can help you in the return game. And then obviously James Cook. Um, Once the Bills made that effort to go to the running game last week against the Giants, more so in that second half, they really kind of got it going, right? And so it'll be interesting to see if the Bills really try to make an effort in the run game today. But I kind of agree with Charles here. Don't bang your head into the wall trying to run the ball against the Pats. Maybe that's not necessarily the right game plan to go against them. So then we start taking a look, right, at the Pats in regards to their passing defense, right? Um, their 23rd rating in coverage per PFF this year. They're tied for the least amount of picks in the NFL with only 2. They have a -8 turnover differential, which is worse than the NFL. So they're really not taking the ball away at all at a good rate. And we'll get back to that as well when we talk about the Pats offense. Um, and they're 24th in the NFL in points per game allowed, allowing teams to average over 25 points per game against them. And Charles, again, he's on it this morning. Pats give up plays to the tight ends. And if you look at the DVOA, they're 29th DVOA defense against the tight ends. And so you take a look at that, right? And you say, well, the Pats are down their number one corner in Christian Gonzalez, who, by the way, and this is season long, but DVOA, the Pats had been number one against opposing teams' number one wide receivers in DVOA. But obviously that goes out the window now with Christian Gonzalez out. And then you couple that with the fact that the Pats are 29th DVOA against the tight end. You like to think, and again, I'm kind of banging the drum here for Judge a bit because he's been talking about this, and a lot of people on social media have been talking about this for some time. Like, we want to see that sort of signature breakout game from a guy like Dalton Kincaid. Or maybe it's a combination, right, of a signature game from the tight ends in general with Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid, with as bad as the Pats have been in defending the tight end. So what do you all think? Like, I want to hear from you. Like, how frustrated or not frustrated are you with the tight end usage so far this year for the Bills? Because on the film, right, and Eric and Anthony have done a good job breaking down plays where the tight ends have been available. The tight ends have been open in certain route concepts, and maybe Josh is just not going to them. But like, how much do you put of this on Josh? How much do you put on this of like Ken Dorsey or Sean McDermott really not maybe getting in Josh's ear to say, hey, look, we have these plays. We look at these photos during the game. We look at these, on the fly. Like we're seeing that the tight ends are open, right? And Jessica says Knox is the issue, and Randy says not overreacting to the lack of tight end usage so far. Um, and that's kind of where I am too, Randy, with this. I think if you look at like, Dalton Kincaid before the concussion, his targets had been fairly steady. Like he's getting like 4 to 6 targets a game. Obviously, Diggs has been the target hog, but like this is the thing with the Bills offense, right? It's like Diggs needs to get his 10 plus targets a game. And the rest is going to kind of be game specific, I think, right? Who becomes that sort of next secondary weapon. And a lot of people want to talk about, oh, the Bills should trade for a wide receiver and this and that. But like at the end of the day, like if Josh is not throwing to the guys, and as your boy comes in here, he says, I puts it 75 to 80 on Josh, he's concentrating on Diggs and Davis, then I don't see how it's that much of a benefit for the Bills to go out and trade for a wide receiver, to be honest. Like we have guys in-house that are more than capable, that have been in camp, that have been in practice, that if we can just facilitate the ball around a little bit more, and maybe in cases where guys are open, maybe Diggs is open too, and like maybe it's a tougher catch, but we know Diggs can, like maybe it is about taking the easier throw, right? Maybe it is about taking the 6-7 yard throw than the lower percentage, the lower percentage opportunity down the field. Like I don't know what the right answer is, but at the end of the day, like there is some of this that's on Josh Allen, right? And I think a lot of people want to be really quick to blame Ken Dorsey. And I'm not saying Ken Dorsey's perfect, by the way. I think that there's a plurality here of blame to kind of go around. And I'm not saying it's been bad. Obviously, the Bills are still the second highest scoring offense in the NFL. But man, like it's a collective effort, right? Between game planning for it, and the coaches being in Josh's ear saying, this is what we want to concentrate on this week. We think we have a matchup advantage with the tight ends. And that could be this week against the Patriots with the Bills tight ends against the Patriots. And then on the field, that translating, right, to Josh making a concerted effort to go to those guys. So to me, that's really interesting. And Bystock says, I still see Josh not taking wide open underneath. And I think that's been, and your boy says he missed a lot of cooked dump offs to try to fit into Diggs. It came up a lot against the Jets. And I think Charles has a lot of good comments today. Get back to the quick passing game, spread the ball around. And to me, I think like if you're really trying to get this offense back on track, and we've seen the offense really kind of struggle I shouldn't say kind of, really struggle the last two games, right? I mean, the Jags game, raw statistically, like looked good at the end, but the reality is we didn't start the game off well offensively. In the Giants game, we had those two really long touchdown drives, but outside of those, it's not up to the standard, right, that we're expecting for this Bills offense. So I'd like to see a few more layups, right? I'd like to see a few more schematic ways to get guys involved in the game early, get Knox and Kincaid involved in the game early, get James Cook involved in the passing game early. It seems like a lot of James Cook's maybe best plays this year have been off script in the passing game. Obviously, we remember that one, the floater Josh made in the Miami game where it was a little bit off script. There was a couple good plays in the Washington game, obviously, where Josh used James Cook in the passing game, or I should say the Raiders game. But it seems like it's not really a huge part of the game plan, and that's something that really is a skill set of James Cook's that the Bills haven't necessarily had as a plus skill set in the running back room for some time. So it'll be interesting to see if maybe they try to get that going a bit this week against the Pats. But I tend to agree. When the Bills were surgical against the Pats in that playoff game and other games, they have really been deliberate, and they have really made a concerted effort to spread the ball around. Obviously, Diggs is still going to get his, but like converting a lot of first downs, being really efficient on third downs, putting yourselves in third and shorts if you get to third downs, not even getting to third down, right? And converting in the red zone. And the Bills really have been a good red zone team this year, which has been something that maybe has gone a bit unnoticed because the last two games the Bills have struggled a bit on offense, but the red zone offense this year has really been a lot better than it was last year. And getting back to kind of the topic on wide receivers, Randy says it's not ride with what we have and worry about wide receiver in the draft. There's a ton of options, and I tend to agree, right? Because we don't know at the end of the day what is the issue, right? Is it a trust thing with Josh Allen and the other guys? Is it something else? Is it just not translating to the field? Like, we don't know, right? If it's a trust thing, then I don't see how bringing a guy from outside the building in is going to help that, right? I just don't see how that is going to help. But at the end of the day, this game, I think, for the Bills offense really comes down to tight ends have to be involved in today's game plan. Diggs, he's going to get his, against against J.C. Jackson, right? He's owned him in the past. The Pats traded back for him, and matchup wise, the Bills should be able to throw against this New England team. I mean, Brian Hoyer and the Raiders threw pretty well against this New England team a week ago. And this is a New England team that in the last 3 games has given up 38 points, 34 points, and 21 points to the Raiders. And keep in mind, they gave up 34 points. I know one of those was a defensive touchdown against the Saints, but they gave up 34 points to the New Orleans Saints, who in this past Thursday game, like offensively looked anything but sharp, right? I mean, again, at the end of the day, they had decent statistics at the end of the game because of playing catch up, but to give up 34 points to that offense that's really also been struggling, like there's a lot of hope for the Bills to get out of their funk on offense in this game against this Pats defense, especially with how banged up the Pats defense is. So what do you guys think? Do you agree with that? Do you want to still see them try to run the ball in this game, which I don't necessarily think lines up with really, I don't think that's a great matchup necessarily for the Bills to try to run the ball a ton in this game. That, like I said, the Pats third best in yards per carry allowed in the NFL this year, and the rushing D has been solid when you dive into the DVOA. So I'm definitely of the opinion that the matchups today need to be taken advantage of in the passing game, and that's Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox. The Pats are 29th DVOA against the tight end, and Stephon Diggs. As far as secondary weapons, yeah, if Deontay Hardy or Khalil Shakir maybe man the slot, Khalil Shakir's snap count's been going up. That's something interesting to pay attention to. And if Gabe Davis can maybe make his mark on this game as well. So, Bystock says Josh seems to own New England. Yeah, there's been a couple anomalies over the last couple years, but by and large, like he has played really well against the Pats. Dr. Brian Adams says New England is the JV team of the East. We better own them. And I would have to agree. So I think that pretty much wraps up the Bills offense against the Pats defense. So let's move on to the Bills defense against the Pats offense. And again, another area where although the Bills are banged up and Oliver out, obviously we know Daquan's out, banged up in the back end a bit. Christian Benford, Dane Jackson, Kyrie Elam, all healthy for this game. Dane Jackson back, so that should relegate Kyrie Elam to the first man off the bench or in the rotation. So, the Bills should have the starting corners of Benford and Jackson out there today. The Pats, taking a look at their DVOA on offense, 29th overall, 30th in passing, 23rd in rushing. So really a pretty lackluster offense. You look again at their last 3 games, they've scored 17 points against the Raiders in a game where both teams looked pretty bad, I'll say. Mac Jones only still threw for 200 yards in that game. 34-0 against the Saints the week prior. Mac Jones only threw for 110 yards. And then obviously the Dallas game before that, losing 38-3. And if you look at the Pats leaders in those past 3 games, you have Ramondre Stevenson on the ground with 46, 24, and 30 yards, respectively, going back from the most recent to the oldest of the last 3 games. And then you have Kendrick Bourne really leading the way from the receiving core, who is a good player. I like Kendrick Bourne, but if he's kind of your go-to, I mean, this game should really set up again well for the Bills. And you look at, some of the other trends that on the Pats offense. Mac Jones on the season, only 5 touchdown passes to 7 picks. He's really been a dumpster fire this year. He's barely averaging over 200 passing yards a game this year. And to be honest, like most of that is because he threw for 300 plus yards in that first game against the Eagles. Outside of that, he would be averaging under 200 passing yards a game over his last 5. And like I said, he's had been 200 or less in his last 3. Ramondre Stevenson obviously leads the way, leads their attack on the ground, but he's averaging an ugly 3 yards a carry. Zeke behind him with just under 50 carries, averaging 3.9. Here's a little interesting fun fact. You think about where the Pats and Ramondre Stevenson should excel. Ramondre Stevenson is regarded and has been one of the best receiving threats as a running back in the NFL the past couple years. He only actually has 4 more receptions on the season than Zeke. He only has 17 receptions so far in the season through 6 games, which is obviously below standard for him. Receiving really supposed to be a differentiator for Stevenson. And the Bills really can't forget this, right? So this is an area where maybe the Pats haven't gotten Stevenson going in the passing game, but we know the Bills really have struggled a little bit against defending opposing teams' passing games to the running backs. We haven't been great at defending screens and the like. Teams have been able to pop off a few big runs against the Bills in recent weeks, and really, I think Stevenson is a guy that, I don't know if he's going to be my respect you player or not, but we can't forget about him in this situation. The Bills may be tested here, right, with Ed Oliver and Daquan Jones out. It'll be interesting to see if the Pats go for a giant style type of approach where limit the number of possessions each team gets, try to hang around and steal one at the end. I think for the Pats, the fewer possessions they can let the Bills have, that's really going to be their best chance in this one. And yeah, for Dr. Brian Adams, if Ford is active, if so, I'd like to see him step up. And I see really no way that Ford won't be active. I even think Kendall Vickers will be active for this game as the 4th defensive tackle. The Bills are thin on the interior right now, so it's definitely an area of concern. The defensive tackles today will likely be Jordan Phillips, Tim Settle, Poona Ford, and Kendall Vickers. Obviously, the inactives won't come out until about 11:30, and it's only about 8:30 right now. But I would expect Kendall Vickers to be active. I don't think the Bills would have called him up to the active roster if they didn't think he was going to be active today. And the Bills have traditionally dressed 4 defensive tackles and made 4 defensive tackles active on game days. So, yeah, Ford and Vickers will have their chances today. And I like this comment from Charles as well. If I'm the Bills, I'm prepared for all types of trickery, onside kicks, fake punts, etc. And look, Bill and crew are down bad right now, right? And I know as Bills fans, we want to see the Pats suffer, right? We want to see that franchise kind of bleed its way out into what it is, into ineptitude. And that's kind of what the Pats have been this season. They started out okay. They hung with the Eagles week 1. They hung with the Dolphins week 2, and they lost those games, but they looked okay. And then they beat the Jets week 3. But since week 3, it has been an absolute dumpster fire for them the last 3 weeks. And especially on offense, they've just been absolutely horrendous. So again, we talk about last week, the Bills defense being maybe a little banged up as well and having a little bit of a reprieve and going against the Giants offense that have been really bad. It's the same story again this week, right? I know it's a division game. It's a little bit of a different animal. It's on the road. The Bills have played better in New England as of late, obviously with Josh Allen, but it's still on the road. It's still a division game. You don't really know what's going to happen. The Patriots offense will probably come out and try to be tricky, right? And try to do some things that, again, takes the Bills by surprise, etc. So it'll be interesting to see what the Pats decide to do. If I'm the Pats, I come out and I try to run the ball with Ramondre and with Zeke. I feel like Zeke actually looks decent. For a guy his age and a guy who's kind of like not really found a niche. He's kind of somewhat found a niche in New England and kind of, he had the big run last week, called back, and he's looked okay. So if the Patriots kind of get that 1-2 punch going up the interior where the Bills are lacking right now, that could be an area where the Pats would want to attack the Bills defense today. I think their passing game really has been pretty bad, and they're going to try to limit the number of possessions the Bills have in this game. So that seems to me like the most reasonable thing. Few other things on the Pats offense. Kendrick Bourne, we talked about. He's been their best receiver. Well, he's got some good size. Can be maybe a bit of a matchup problem for the Bills. He leads their way on the receiver with their receivers with 28 catches. Their next closest receiver on the roster is Juju Smith-Schuster with only 14 catches on the year. So the Pats have essentially gotten nothing from their wide receivers this year. In the passing game, Hunter Henry and Mike Gesicki have combined for 33 catches. So the tight ends are something to watch for in this game. The Bills are going to have to be good in coverage against Gesicki and Henry. We know Gesicki has been a problem for the Bills and going back to his days in Miami, but the Bills have really done a pretty good job. Look, if Hunter Henry gets like a goal line touchdown or something like that, that's not going to cause me to lose much sleep because I don't really think the Patriots are going to score a ton of points. But obviously have to watch out for those two guys. Last 3 games, the Pats have had 7 giveaways and have been held under 100 rushing yards in all games this year, except for one, which was the Jets game, which is the one game they coincidentally won. So a recipe for the Bills is really to kind of keep that Pats run game in check. Vice versa, as we just talked about, the Pats really probably want to try to get that run game going, and the trend would say that if they can run for over 100 yards, they have a decent chance to win. Any game that they've run for under 100 yards this year, they've lost. The Pats are 35% converting third downs, bottom 10 in the NFL. They're 2 for 10 on fourth downs this season, which is the worst percentage in the NFL on fourth down percentage. And as far as some of their PFF ratings, their O-line, 30th in pass blocking, 24th in run blocking grades for their line this year per PFF. They have the 3rd highest usage of 2 tight end sets on passing plays. So I expect Hunter Henry and Mike Gesicki to be pretty much running routes on most of their with most of their 12 personnel. That's the 10th highest, and they have the 10th highest two tight end usage on running plays, which makes sense as well. However, as I mentioned when we were talking about the Pats' defense on offense, -8 turnover differential is the worst in the NFL. So if you're the Bills and you can be opportunistic in this game and you should have opportunities to take the ball away, this is the worst team in the NFL turnover differential wise. So I would really hope that the Bills could steal 1 or 2 today, take away, really kind of put the Pats away early would be nice, right? And the last couple games, the Bills have kind of really struggled to put teams away and obviously did lose to the Jags. So I think overall the Bills, linebackers and secondary are in decent shape. It's really going to come down, I think, to that interior of the Bills line and how they can hold up against the run. But if the Bills can force the Pats into some third down in long situations, obviously the Pats are one of the worst teams at converting third downs this year, and that Bills pass rush should be able to get after it. And to what Jessica said earlier, put Groot on the inside on passing downs, get Groot on the field with Epinesa, with Leonard Floyd. That can really wreak some havoc on Mac Jones and co. And we're talking about, like Charles says, I bet we see Malik Cunningham running the Wildcat in short yardage, and that kind of gets back to the point of, are the Pats going to pull out all the stops, run some trick plays, do some things in this game that they haven't done this year, and really to try to just empty the cupboard right offensively to see anything that could potentially work, and get that Nagby coming in and break that man's soul. Yeah, the Pats are looking for answers right on offense, and I think that if you're the Bills, you don't want to give them any glimmer of hope, right? You don't want to give away cheap first downs. You don't want to give away cheap big plays, especially on the ground. To me, that's a killer, right? When you give up long running plays, and we've seen that happen a few times to the Bills this year, and it hasn't been ideal. Your boy says Bill O'Brien isn't that great of an OC, and I tend to agree, but we'll see. Like, desperation can make people do some interesting things. All right. We're doing good on time, just at 40 minutes. About ready to get into our superlatives for today. So let's get into it. And share yours in the comment section as well. I'll put them up on the screen. And we'll start, of course, with our. Let's see, how am I going to do this? We'll start with our Take Me Higher player of the game. So this is our player that, we feel is a star player, as always, not named Josh Allen, and a player that really needs to step their game up today. And it's an interesting conversation today because obviously you expect Stephon Diggs to step up, and really he has stepped up, right? And it really hasn't been Stephon Diggs that has needed to take the team higher. I think we need to go elsewhere for this, right? And I think that today's an interesting one. You can point to Gabe Davis, maybe you point to Dalton Kincaid, although I don't know how we maybe classify Dalton Kincaid right now. Is he more of a wild card player? Is he more of a take me higher player? So you know what, I'm gonna say the take me higher player today is a guy that's really exceeded all expectations this year, has really become a star for this Bills defense, and has really played, I think, at a Pro Bowl caliber level so far through 6 games, and I think will be really important to making sure that the Bills stay on schedule defensively on third downs and helping those guys in front of him who are banged up and coming down and helping in the run game. And to me, that's Terrell Bernard. So I think Terrell Bernard needs to be the take me higher player today. I think if Terrell Bernard has one of those great games that he's been having this year, really playing well against the run, maybe making a play or two in the passing game, flying all over the field, I think Terrell Bernard has reached the status of level where he can be considered a take me higher player, and he, to me, is in that echelon now. So for me today, I'm going to say that that Terrell Bernard is the take me higher player of the game. AXN Jackson says Kincaid for all the superlatives today. Matthew Williams says Davis. That's a good one. Davis has been my take me higher player the last 2 games, and has been, I don't know, it's been a little disappointing. Your boy says Dawson Knox needs to step up. That $11 million is looking, it's looking interesting right now. He's practiced fully all week, so hopefully that wrist is really close to being back to 100%, and he has a big game. He's obviously made some big catches in his career against the Pats, notably in that playoff game, obviously, from a couple years ago where he made that great catch in the back of the end zone on that opening drive. Roy says, I can see Kincaid getting 3 catches for 21 yards today. I could see that. And your boy says that has literally been Kincaid's output this season when healthy. Look, and I know a lot of people talked about this at the beginning. We talk about this being a really good matchup for the Bills tight ends. People are seeing a guy like Sam Laporta with the Lions and like just wishing that like maybe Kincaid could be that guy. And it's like situation matters. The Lions have really featured Laporta this year. I mean, it's really been Amon-Ra and Laporta. Josh Reynolds and Cleve Raymond have been more like secondary weapons, although Josh Reynolds has been pretty good for them. Jameson Williams now coming back into the fold. But really, Kincaid, I think, in the pecking order, maybe to start the season, he's probably third, right? It was probably Diggs, Davis, and then Kincaid third. So maybe Kincaid in this game can maybe start to creep up on Davis and maybe take him over a little bit as the kind of number 2 weapon on this offense. We will see. And Matthew Williams says Davis 2 TDs. Maybe that'll be that part of the hot take conversation. So on to the next, which is our wild card player of the game. So this is a player that is kind of like a non-starter guy that maybe doesn't play a ton or is not one of like the upper echelon guys on the roster, but maybe needs to have a big game or will have a big play in this game to propel the Bills to victory. Or maybe it's a wild card player that we need to hope has a good game to prevent the Pats from having someone have a good play or of that nature. This is an interesting one today. I think that I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go a little bit. I'm gonna go a little bit different here. I think on offense, we're gonna have a wild card player. I don't. I'm not gonna say Kincaid or Knox because I think they'll be featured a bit. I think it could be Latavius Murray today. I know the Pats have been really good yards per carry allowed. I think when the Bills get into the red zone, I think Latavius Murray can be a factor today. I could see Latavius Murray having like a short yardage touchdown or two in this game. I think James Cook maybe will be used a little bit more in the passing game today, but I could see Latavius Murray maybe being a factor down in the red zone, down at the goal line today. I've really liked the way he's been running this year, and he's really looked pretty good in that sort of secondary role. And he started the game last week. Now that might have been game plan specific, but that's a player who I feel like has played pretty well this year when given opportunities. So I'm going to say not Dalton Kincaid, Latavius Murray as my wild card player today. Your boy Les says, I think Spence is the guy for helping the run game. Yeah. Spencer Brown, right? Obviously with Uche out, Judon out, he could really get it going today and get that swagger going back. I mean, the Bills offensive line, it's been documented that maybe haven't had their best couple games the last few weeks, but maybe this is kind of a get right game for them. Maybe this is a game for them to dictate. Malvin Henry says Hardy will go off today. I like that one. The Bills have kind of been really making an effort for 2 to 3 plays a game to get Hardy involved. Obviously, Shakir's snap count has been going up as well. So maybe who knows what happens today? Maybe it's Hardy, maybe it's Shakir, maybe it's one of those guys out of the slot that makes a play to really propel the Bills. And that brings us to our respect you player. So this is the player on the opposing team that the Bills need to respect. And the Pats are down, right? The Pats are down. A lot of injuries right now. A lot of question marks on the offense for the Pats right now. There's not a ton to really, I think, scare you about the Pats right now, but I do think there's still a couple players on this roster that you need to respect. And I didn't want to give it away earlier, but for me, it's Ramondre Stevenson. I think we really need to respect him. Slow start for him this year. This feels like a game where if the Pats really wanted to kind of get him going with the Bills' injuries on the interior, getting Ramondre Stevenson involved in the passing game as well, I think that he is the guy that the Pats would lean on today to try to carry them to some way to a win, right? Mac Jones has really struggled. We don't know. We respect McCorkle Jones. Better respect Mac Jones. I love all these sarcastic respect of Mac Jones. It's pretty good. But for me, I'm going to go Ramondre Stevenson, right? I think that he definitely can be a problem for the Bills if they let him get going a bit, and especially in the passing game, right, where he has really been a differentiator, and that has really kind of made him what the special running back he is in the NFL over the past couple years. So for me, it's Ramondre Stevenson as the player you need to respect for the Patriots, which now brings us to our fire sale, our hottest take of the game. I saw some folks, what was it? Someone said Davis, 2 TDs today. I can't remember who said that. It was Matthew. Put this up for a hot take. Davis, 2 TDs today is his hot take, I'll say. Yeah, Red, White, and Bills says Bills O-line has been good. I don't understand why people think they haven't been good. Yeah, they have been good. Roy says, curious to see if Elam gets any play time. Is that maybe going to be part of a hot take? Is Elam going to step up and maybe make a play today in a rotation? Look, my hot take today is that it could go so many ways. Man, I'll say this. I think Josh has not used his legs a ton, right? As much as he has in past weeks. I think today could be the game where you see a bit more of that, I think, and Red, Right, and Bill says hot take Hardy gets 100 yards. I think Josh today, I mean, it's not going to be, it shouldn't be a difficult day to pass the ball. I wonder if the Pats will try to do a lot in coverage today, drop a lot of guys back. I wonder if we'll see Josh maybe take off a bit more today, using his legs to maybe make some plays. And I'll say, hot take today, Josh Allen, 2 rushing TDs and over 50 rushing yards for Josh Allen today. So that combination, I think, makes this a hot take because really we haven't seen that much out of him so far this year. He's been very selective. I think that's by design, although I think today we could see him run a bit more. So your boy says, we are due a Sugar Rush Josh game. We ruined the Patriots tank. And yeah, I don't know. We'll see about that. Hot take from Charles. Murray has more rushing yards than Cook. That's an interesting one. And Murray was my wild card player of the game. And then Matthew says there will be some good Allen runs plus his small shoulder issues. Yeah, I don't know how much that shoulder is going to affect him, or maybe it'll affect his willingness to run. I don't know. We'll see. Josh Allen goes full sugar rush. We ruin the Patriots tank, says your boy Lettuce. That's a good one. Full sugar rush maybe at times is not so bad, right? In small doses, it could be okay. Dan says Dorian Williams pick 6. I like that. That's a really nice one. Dorian Williams, a guy I should have mentioned on the Bills defense, actually played a pretty solid game there against the Giants. I think this Dorian Williams Terrell Bernard combo, yeah, obviously it sucks without Milano, right? It really does. But at the end of the day, we're now maybe fortunate that the Bills did draft Dorian Williams as well. And I got you, you boy. I meant to super chat the first time. I appreciate that. You always come in with the super chats, and I really appreciate it. Roy says Epinesa 3 sacks. Charles says Vaughn gets his first sack today. Man, that would be nice, right? I feel like Vaughn, he's maybe due for a little bit of a coming out party as well. Could be a nice game for that. Obviously, the analytics show that the Patriots pass blocking has not been great. It it should be there. It should be available for the Bills if the Pats have Mac Jones back there standing like a statue. Maybe Vaughn can get his first sack today. That would be really nice. And that finally leads us then into our game predictions and our final thoughts for the game. Look, this is interesting, right? Because a week ago, Judge and I sat here and thought, okay, down game against the Jags, Giants on Sunday night at home. It's a get right game for the Bills. Should be all these matchups in the Bills' favor, and the Bills should really run away with this game. And then it was anything but that, right? It was anything but that, and it took really it really did take till the last play of the game to get that win. And the Bills did make those scoring drives when they had to in the fourth quarter, and they got those 2 long drives when they really needed them. But I think I'll be a little bit more conservative today in my prediction and hope that it then goes the other way, right? And the Bills prove me wrong and they just blow the doors off the Patriots. But I'm going to go a little bit more conservative today. I think the Bills, again, it's another good matchup for them. With the Pats hurting on that defensive edge, should be plenty of time for Josh Allen to throw and pick apart this defense. Should be opportunities for him to run the ball a bit as well, get James Cook involved in the passing game. We mentioned the Bills match up well. Tight ends are both healthy. Pat's very poor at defending the tight end. Knox and Kincaid should be available if Josh can hit them in this game today. And really, the Bills have played really well against the Pats, excuse me, lately. And so while I hope it's a fast start for the offense, I don't know what to expect now. Should have been a fast start last week. It wasn't. And I'm hoping maybe by not predicting a fast start that maybe reverse jinxes them and they do actually get off to a fast start. But again, I think the Bills, they have a way more talented roster. They have a quarterback that's light years better than the quarterback on the other side. Pats also have some injuries on the defensive side of the ball, just like the Bills do. And the Pats have really been pretty abysmal the last 3 games. Again, only scoring 20 points in their last 3 games and allowing 30 plus in 2 of those and 21 to the Raiders, who have really not been good on offense either. So, look, I think the Bills find some things on offense today. I don't know if it's going to be perfect. They need to win this game. It's a division game. Obviously, we've got a huge game lined up as well in the division with the Dolphins playing the Eagles this week. So, big Eagles fan this week. Hopefully, the Eagles can knock off the Dolphins. The Bills can take care of things against New England, and all of a sudden, the Bills are back to sitting in first place in the AFC East. Obviously, a lot has to happen between now and tonight for that. We'll all be waiting, hopefully, after a Bills win for that game tonight, which should be fun. But in this game, I'm going to go ahead and predict Bills 31, Pats 14. I think that the Bills do get enough going. Josh Allen, like I said, 2 rushing TDs. I think you see a rushing TD from Murray and maybe a TD to one of the tight ends. I think it's going to be a very evenly spread out game offensively today. I think you'll see a much more deliberate effort to get a lot of the other pieces involved. I think Diggs will still get his, and I think the Bills offense will find something. And it may not start off great, but I think they will find something more than they have the past few games. And I just think the Pats offensively are so limited, even with the Bills' injuries. Maybe the Pats get a touchdown or 2, be able to run the ball a little bit with Stevenson with those injuries the Bills have on the interior. But I think at the end of the day, the Bills' offense and defense is just too much for the Pats, and the Bills end up winning this one 31-14. We've got AXGN. Bills win, Chargers win, Eagles win, sleep happy. Matthew says they always have one game where they fall apart. Let that be the Giants game. Comeback incoming. Bass won't miss 2 kicks in a game. Yeah, that was a little bit uncharacteristic. Really, everything that could have gone wrong for the Bills last week did, and they still managed to snatch out a victory. So, and your boy comes back in with that prediction from earlier in the show. Bills 53, Pats 10. We can't let the Cowboys have the mantle of Belichick's worst defeat after what we did to him in his last playoff appearance. So that is certainly true. Bills really need to get this win today. Enjoy the rest of your morning, everyone. I was really happy to come in to do this show live this morning and not do it pre-recorded. Judge enjoying his time in California. We had almost 100 people coming in the morning time, which is really incredible. Comment section on fire. Everyone had their coffee this morning. It sounded like, based on the comment section, people are ready for this game. And now you can go and relax for a couple hours before this game starts. Take care of whatever you need to do this morning and enjoy yourselves before this game starts at 1 o'clock, because it's the last 1 o'clock game I think we have for some time, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just take a quick look at that. Actually, we've got this 1 o'clock game, and then we've got the Thursday nighter against Tampa. Then we're at Cincinnati for Sunday night football. Then we're home against Denver for Monday night football. And then we've got 4:25 games in a row. Then the 8 o'clock Peacock game against the Chargers. And then funny enough, our next 1 o'clock game is also against the Patriots. So there you go. So Patriots 1 o'clock game, and our next 1 o'clock game from here is against the Patriots down the road. So, all right. And thank you very much, Red, White, and Bills. Great show, man. It's always a little bit tricky doing things solo, but I really appreciate you guys getting me through it today. It was really nice to actually have the comments today to feed off of, and hopefully, you all see that, putting the comments up and really trying to get you guys involved in the show and taking your comments into consideration. So I really appreciate it. We're at that hour mark. It's perfect timing to sign off for now. Go get your breakfast, go do whatever you need to do until this game at 1 o'clock. And really, thank you all again for tuning in. It means the world to me and to Judge, obviously. So I really appreciate it. And let's get that win. Until next time, go Bills.
Thank you for watching tonight's episode of the Air Raid Hour. Make sure to hit that like button on the way out. If you are catching the show on demand, leave a reply in the comment section and we will respond over the course of the week. You can always listen to every episode next day on all major podcasting platforms, including Apple Podcasts and Spotify, by searching Air Raid Buffalo. Thank you for your continued support, and as always, go Bills!